Hey, I just want to provide a little bit of my experience as a parent to public school kids in a red state, in a red area of the red state, in by and large a conservative school township. So the school board has been very responsive to some of the conservative media fears over DEI, critical race theory, social emotional learning. So those buzzwords that have been in circulation, really going back to Chris Rufo. Chris Rufo is a conservative think tank guy. Chris Rufo was the guy that originally sort of hatched the whole CRT thing. And this is very Googleable. You can go and look at this. Chris Rufo was like, hey, we're going to make everything we don't like. We're just going to call it CRT. And he said that in an interview and then just went on to do it. And now it happened that everything that conservatives didn't like, they just began to call CRT. And so there was a real panic about that. And that panic touched the school district where my kids, my spouse and I, where our kids go to school. And it's really interesting how that has played out, that parents have been able to opt their children out of some of these things. So parents have been able to opt their kids out of social emotional learning, or SEL. Parents have been able to opt their kids out of the sex ed curriculum. So, and many conservative parents have done just that. They've taken their kids out of those programs. Those programs, of course, provide all sorts of helpful things. SEL is all about conflict mediation, about emotional intelligence, about standing up to bullies. All those sorts of things that are really useful life skills, in fact, social emotional learning. So I guess the observation that I want to make here, and I don't like to just make, state problems without some sort of a solution, but I feel like we're in very much a state the problem with no solution sort of a place right now. But I just see how this lives out in real time in my local community. That, when you start to deprive children of conflict mediation techniques, when you deprive children of developing emotional intelligence, when you deprive kids of focused curriculum around diversity and multiculturalism. When you deprive kids of that, it's very likely if the parents opted them out of it, they're certainly not getting any of that at home. So you've got a kind of a generational lack of emotional intelligence. And I think we should be aware of that. And I don't know how to say that in a way that doesn't sound like a negative value judgment. I really mean this in a very neutral, observational way. Now, if you were to ask me personally, I think that's very harmful. I think it's very harmful. I think part of the roles of education is for social development in our kids and learning emotional intelligence and learning conflict mediation and learning compromise. I think all of those, learning to view the world from somebody else's perspective. I think that's one of the real values of public school. And I think that's one of the things you lose when you go to universal school choice programs like Indiana's trying to do, where the voucher program funnels money away from public schools, puts it in the hands of affluent folks. Those affluent folks can then send the kids to the schools of their choosing, which of course undermines any multiculturalism and diversity. But I just want to make this observation as a parent of kids. Our kids are 7th, 5th, and 3rd grade right now. So a middle schooler and 2 elementary school kids. And I just see this. I see this in real time. I see the counselor who facilitates the SEL sessions sends out the curriculum each week. Here's what your kids are going to do in SEL this week. And they're very good things. They're very good lessons. Things that you will need in your life as so-called soft skills, if you want to call them that. And so I read that from the school counselor every week, and I'm like, man, that's great stuff. And then I immediately think, man, there's a lot of parents who are opting their kids out of that. So that is from a very young age, certain parents are depriving their kids of some of those really important life skills, like standing up to bullies, like regulating their emotions, like developing empathy and fostering emotional intelligence. So this is whether that's, and I really don't, I think if you look at places like think tanks and the Heritage Foundation and stuff like that, certainly it's a deliberate program. I think here, where we are, in a very middle class area, with, I'm guessing Fox News is on a lot of people's TVs all the time. Then I think you don't know the extent to which you're depriving your kids of really important stuff. And so I think it's like, oh, well, I've heard that this SEL is just another name for CRT, and CRT is just another name for Marxism. If that's the nonstop flow of information that you get, then you may actually think that you're doing your kids a service by taking them out of those opt-in, opt-out programs. And I think that that's, of course, going to greatly damage our democracy, because democracy demands emotional regulation, emotional intelligence, empathy, diversity, multiculturalism. So an effort to get kids out of those things will necessarily impact a successful, thriving democracy down the line. And I think that's some of what we're seeing even today.